Amazing news to start the national briefing with me, Kelly Nash. Headline, U.S. economy grew at a 3% rate in the second quarter. Far better than expected pace even as the Trump tariffs hit. That is the headline at CNBC. And if you dig down a little bit deeper, it'll talk about consumer spending rose at 1.4% in the second quarter. It'll also talk about how imports fell 30%. So we're buying American. We're helping America. It also talks about how the U.S. savings accounts are filling up. We have more money in the bank. We have more jobs. Unemployment's low. The economy's growing. Things are going fantastic. But as Bill O'Reilly would say, I'm a simple man. I read that and say that's good news, but I'm not a big thinker. That's why CNN has to hire big thinkers to break it down. Get us the real news. CNN economics expert Matt Egan.
You got to really dig in here to understand what's actually happening. And what we've seen is that there's something called core GDP in this report, and it strips out some of the distortions caused by the trade war and shifts in government spending. And core GDP increased by much, much less, just by 1.2%
but it was up
during the second quarter. And that is actually a slower pace of core GDP than during the first quarter. And so that does suggest that even though headline GDP rebound, this economy has actually started to lose some momentum.
Oh my gosh, we're losing momentum. It's like we're sick, but we don't know that we're sick. Thank God we have a great economics doctor in Matt Egan. He could write prescriptions. Prescription, keep interest rates high. That's the best thing for you right now. You got to keep those prescription rates real high. Let's go back in time. This is Matt Egan when the idea of Donald Trump is floating the idea of putting tariffs on China and a bunch of other countries. And Matt Egan, thank God, and listen to the deep appreciation that Dana Bash has as he analyzes the situation before the tariffs could be put in place.
Massive tariffs like this, they would kill jobs. It would actually make inflation worse. It could cause a global trade war. I talked to JP Morgan's David Kelly, and he told me that this is one of those magical economic proposals that can actually cause inflation and put you into a recession at the same time, right? So to be clear, you don't want either of those things to happen.
Of course not.
And the fear is that both of them could happen.
And
there's some research out there from the Peterson Institute that warns that everyday Americans are going to pay the price, that the typical middle income family would have to pay $2,600 more a year because of the Trump tariffs. And notably, Dana, this does not even factor in the almost definite retaliation we have as other countries respond to those Trump tariff proposals.
That was so helpful that you did that. And I know it's just skimming the surface because it's so complex and so deep when it comes to the economic questions.
So helpful, so deep. Thank you, Matt Egan. I guess because of Matt's warnings there, we didn't do the tariffs, right? That didn't happen. Obviously, if we're having this kind of a great economic quarter, we didn't do that. We didn't. Inflation's down, right? So we know we didn't do the tariffs. Wait, are you saying we did do the tariffs? We did? We actually implemented those? And we continue to implement them? And we've already brought in $150 billion into the Treasury? And they're now projecting that as more tariffs are applied, we're going to go to $200 billion next month. There's actual talk about maybe reducing or at some point in the future eliminating income tax because of the incredible success of these tariffs. Didn't they listen to Matt Egan's warning? Jerome Powell does. Jerome Powell must listen to Matt Egan, must have him on speed dial. Matt, what should I do? Keep the interest rates high? Absolutely. Now, here's a guy. The main reason I want to play him is just because his opening line is such a smart aleck comment. I love this. His name is James Fishback. He's the founder and CEO of a company called Azoria, and he was on with Stuart Varney on Fox Business, and this is what he has to say.
It turns out that Jerome Powell is simply the Anthony Fauci of economics.
Whoa.
Wrong, smug, and completely unaccountable. He's wrong, Stuart, because just last month he told us in his official projections that GDP was going to come in at 1.4%. It came in at 3%, more than double his expectations. President Trump is winning on that front, despite the fact that under President Trump, inflation is coming at 1.8% annualized, not at, but below the Fed's target. He's all but certain to keep interest rates near 20-year highs today. And lastly, he's unaccountable. For the first time in 30 years, Stuart, there are going to be two Fed governors, Mickey Bowman and Chris Waller, who are going to dissent from the Fed today, saying that the Fed should be cutting today.
Wow. Okay. So let's just, in case you're not familiar with the Federal Reserve Board of Governors, because they always talk about Jerome Powell's not like, it's just not his call. You've got to actually put it to the board. He is the chairman of the board. Now, it's the board's decision. So this is not a Jerome Powell thing, right? This is a board thing. So who's on this board? That's a great question. Who's on the board? Well, he mentioned Mickey Bowman. I guess that's, oh, Mickey, you're so fine. That's what the friends call her. I would call her Michelle because that's her legal name, Michelle Bowman, Republican, appointed back in 2018 by Donald Trump. And Christopher Waller, Republican, also reported assigned just before the end of the first Trump administration back in December of 2020. Who else is on here? Well, let's go ahead and take a look at your vice chair. That's a guy named Phil Jefferson. He's a Biden appointee. Lisa Cook, Biden appointee. Michael Barr, Biden appointee. Adriana Kugler, Biden appointee. So if you add it up, it's 4 Democrats who obviously, just to be a Democrat, you have to almost swear an oath that I hate America. And then you got Jerome Powell and Christopher Waller and Michelle Bowman, the 3 Republicans. I don't know what Jerome Powell is. He's declared himself a Republican. He's not acting like one. But the other 2, Michelle Bowman and Christopher Waller, for the first time in 30 years, it's not a unanimous vote. They're saying you're ignoring the data. We have to cut the interest rates. Help out the Americans. Not only would it help the Americans, as Donald Trump pointed out, for every point that they would cut, it would save roughly almost $350 billion in interest payments on the debt. If they cut it to 3 points, which they would never do, but that's about where we should be, is about 3 points lower, it would save $1 trillion. $1 trillion. But even if you just cut it the point, save the $350 billion, that's fantastic. If you can save $350 billion, that's fantastic. More importantly, though, it opens up the real estate market, the auto buying market, and other things where people have to get loans. They're right now they're all log jammed. People don't want to get out of their low interest rates. They don't want to move into the homes that they actually want to buy because they're in a great interest rate. The people who are trying to buy into these homes, because there's so few on the market, the prices have exploded. Jerome Powell and the chair, the Federal Board of Governors, they've got the ability to help America. They are refusing to do it because they listen to morons like Matt Egan at CNN.